Monday Night Live, something, something, 5-5. Is my microphone turned on? Yes, it is. When will they see me weep? Oh, hello. There you are. Ha! Hello, darlings. And just for a moment, I thought you were on the wonk. But you're not, are you? Of course you're not on the wonk. You have been fixed in that unwonked position for some time now. And I've got used to you not being on the wonk, and I hope you're used now to being unwonked. I hope you feel safe and comfortable where I've got you there at the end of my table of eternal damnation. And it's Monday night. I'm so excited. It is, as always, nothing less than a sheer, indulgent, olive oil laden joy to be here with you again for 2 hours of supreme wonderfulness. And as a special treat, now that I am years old, I am finally going to grow up and I'm going to become professional. So tonight, prepare yourselves for an utterly professional, viewer led live stream experience. So I'm going to press all of the right doings. I'm going to keep right on top of your comments. I'm going to be all over you like a bloody rash, quite frankly, my darlings. And to demonstrate, bloody hell, God's sake, absolutely fine all day. Soon as we start a live stream, I can't speak. I turn into Bob Fleming. I've got some sympathy with Bob Fleming now. I mean, so to let you know just how professional I'm being on this very cold, it's bloody freezing, isn't it? Oh God, the day I've had. Wait until I tell you. I hope that you're all safe and warm. I'm going to find out. I'm going to be all over these comments. I'm telling you, I'm going to pick up every single comment, and I'm going to tickle them until they wet themselves. I'm going to. Oh God, you're in for an amazing treat tonight. You see if you're not. And to let you know just how professional I'm being this evening, without any of you prompting me, I've already toggled the what's it. I have. I've toggled the doing so that I am on all messages and not top messages. So I'm going to see each and every message, and I'm going to give each and every message full consideration. And this live stream, there's going to be no nonsense. I'm not going to be talking any old nonsense. I'm not going to be meandering off in various directions. No, 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 no. This is the new Boaty's World live stream experience where you, the viewer, lead the way. Oh, yes. I will be guided by the wisdom and the wisdom of your comments, with a few notable exceptions. Cheeseburger springs to mind. Right, here we go. Are you ready? Strap in, darlings. We're off. Jimmy Quinn has joined us, and jolly good evening to you, Jimmy Quinn. And I'm grateful for you giving your time to be here with me and with the community at large. And Jimmy says, "Good evening, Boaty and everyone," which is a wonderful comment. I enjoyed that very much. In fact, I enjoyed that comment so much, I'm going to read it again. Good evening, Boaty and everyone. A wonderful sentiment, and I thank you for it, Jimmy. And I hope that you're very well. Oh, and thank you for actually commenting something nice on Boaty's notches. Jimmy was nice to me on Boaty's notches tonight, and he said he hated to do it, but it was my birthday yesterday. So we move on to the next comment, which comes roaring in like a greased weasel dropping, all the way from down under, Australasia, where women. What did women do? Oh, it's there. God, I was looking for that. Oh, I've had to put emergency contingent measures in. Look, I thought I'd lost this, and I threw it in my. Now, today I've been filming at the yard, right? Well, bit of filming, bit of. Well, basically, today I've been trying to stay alive and not die of hypothermia at the pissing yard. So I had my rucksack, and I had many things in my rucksack. And on the way home, I threw things from the car seat into the rucksack. So I had to park way down the bottom. It's been too. I couldn't be asked to mess about with the car. Oh, now, yes, cars. Now, obviously, I was supposed to be going in Dick-a-Dum-Dum today and taking him for his MOT. And there was a slight cock up on the organisational front. So I didn't take Dick-a-Dum-Dum today. I wasn't sure which card I was going to take. And at the last minute, I decided to take the Honourable Stigbert von Thundercock. But of course, I hadn't swapped the cars around and put the right card in pole position. And I took Stigbert mainly because he was the nearest one. So I didn't have to walk so far this morning when I was still half asleep and half hungover. But obviously, that's a prime space. So that had gone by the time I got home this evening. And I had to park right down the bottom, right by the bus stop. Threw all of the stuff into my rucksack. And could I find my lighter? Could I ask? And I looked in there, and it's not in there. And I looked everywhere else, and I thought I obviously left it in the car. And I'm buggered. I'm absolutely buggered. Not literally buggered, but metaphorically, I was going to be buggered if I was going to walk all the way in the freezing cold. It's about minus 112 here tonight, darlings, which is warmer than it was in the caravan of mislaid pants today. I can tell you that. And I was buggered if I was going to walk down all the way to the car for it. So I thought, well, contingency measure. I deployed, my darlings, an additional candle. And there it is. Oh, no, I need to get that in the middle, don't I? And I needn't have deployed an additional candle. I just needed to search this is my work bag, by the way. Now, what this actually is a cooler bag. And I originally bought this when I was working at Sainsbury's for my picnic lunch, or packed lunch, if you prefer. But around these parts, here, on the border of North Derbyshire and South Yorkshire, they call it a pack-up. And that's what this is. But I use it as a work bag. You've got all sorts in there. You've got a compartment thing at the bottom, and I've got, oh God, the things I've got in there, they're, well, actually, let's have a look. I'll tell you what they're on here. Rubber gloves, condoms, wet wipes. This is looking a bit totty, isn't it? More wet wipes, more rubber gloves. God. Ibuprofen, painkillers for when another one of my teeth decide to fall out when I'm not at home. That hasn't happened yet. Every single one of my teeth have fallen out when I'm at home. To that. So I spend more time, or surely I must spend more time not at home than at home. So the law of average would say that my teeth are more likely to fall out when I'm not at home. And yet every single one of them has fallen out when I am at home. So, that's interesting, isn't it? In a very uninteresting sort of way. But the point I'm trying to make, darlings, is that when I threw the lighter into my rucksack, it got lodged in there, look, and I never looked in there. So I needn't have deployed this additional candle. And the additional candle has now gone out, so we'll shove it over there, and we'll just pretend that none of that ever happened, shall we? Excellent. Well, that's jolly good, and it's all going splendidly, isn't it? Now, how are you enjoying this new professional viewer-led live stream experience? I hope that you're loving it. I hope you're loving it in the way that... No, I can't say that. That's the kind of thing that I can't say now. I'm being professional. The thing that I was going to say would have been highly offensive. And that's not the way that we're doing things now, darlings. Oh, no. Right. So it is now 10 past 10, and I will move on to the second comment, which comes from God, which comes from Barry, also known as that guy from SETI Alpha 5. Oh, is it? Oh, dear. Apparently my audio is breaking up and cracking a bit. All right. Well, I can try changing microphone, but it's probably going to be the internet, to be honest with you, darlings. Right, hold on. Okay, what is possibly going on? I'll change the microphone as well, just to be on the safe side. Right, I'm guessing that what is probably going on with if the audio is kicking in and out or crackly or whatever, I think it's likely to be the internet connection, partly because of the weather outside, but also I've just realized that I've got a shed load of content from today, and it's probably being uploaded from my. Oh, good. Excellent, John. It's probably being uploaded from my portable electric devices onto my iCloud. And that's going to take up a lot of the bandwidth of the internet. So what I've done, darlings, I've changed the microphone anyway, just in case. And I've turned off the Wi-Fi on my portable electric telephones. So they will stop their uploading and then all of the internet can then be directed at this live stream. So apologies if you experienced crackly audio, but don't worry. I'm going to start again entirely from scratch, so you won't have missed a thing. Right, now, how did I start this? I'm not really. I'm not really. Right, it's now 12 minutes past 10. Let's see if we can make it onto the second comment, shall we? And it comes from Barry, that guy from SETI Alpha 5. He says, Guten Abend, Boaty and all. Well, Guten Abend to you and wie geht es? John Stoodley is here. Hey, chat, hey, Boaty. And John Stoodley, the lovely and wonderful John Stoodley, has been a channel member for 4 months now. A top of the range channel member, connoisseur, no less. And he says, hope you had a great day on your birthday. And that's very kind, John. And thank you for all the support you give to the channel. And I hope you're feeling okay at the moment. I hope you're recovering, getting there, head above water, all of that. And other people seem to be, other people are saying exactly the same, hoping you're well. Oh, good man, John. My body won't win this fight. I'm not going to let it. Good on you. Trisha Alderman is here. The lovely Trisha Alderman, whom, along with Paul, her other half, I have to thank for this fabulous birthday card. Thank you again for that. Trisha's here. Good evening to you. Pingu Concord he's right in our midst, is Pingu. Oh, he is. He's right in our midst. Yeah, right in our midst. And he says, salutations, oh pendulous one. And salutations to you, Pingu. Mark is here. Bad Books. Barry Scrotter is here. Good evening to you. Definitely less wonky than last week, says Mark. You're in exactly the same place. Sonia hasn't altered. You're unmoved. The cottage must be wonky. The cottage is shifted on its axis. Greg Goddard is here. Evening, Boaty. Hope you and everyone watching is well. That's good. Oh, thanks, Mark. Thank you, Bad Books. We hear you're an old fecker now, Father Boaty. Yeah. I mean, in reality, I'm 1 day older, but it's it's another little thing on the old milometer clicking up, isn't it? I mean, I'm the age now that, well, I'm the same age as old people, and that's really weird. Professional, says General Cheeseburger. Who the feck are you kidding? Cheeseburger, eat your words. You can't deny I've been utterly professional tonight. I've caught right up with the comments. I'm not behind in any way, shape, or form. I've given every comment due process. I've not said any naughty words. I've not repeated myself. I've not deviated from the subject. And I haven't. What's the other one? Oh, and repetition. I haven't repeated myself. Oh no, I said that already, didn't I? Repetition. Hesitation. Yeah, hesitation. That's it. I haven't hesitated, repeated myself, or been a deviant. So yeah. But says so. No talk of pottering, rusty trombones, and oh hello, this is a new one. Bucake, bucake, bukkake, buck. Pardon me while I just Google that. BU. Where's it gone? Oh, KK. AKE. Bukkake udon is a popular local udon noodle dish topped with stewed cowline meats and konnyaku called bukkake and green onions. And there are lots of pictures of noodles. Oh, it's Japanese apparently. Oh, hang on. Ah, there is a. Oh God, really? Oh dear. Okay, well, it is connected to Japan. It comes from the Japanese phrase or word bukakeru, meaning to dash water. And apparently, I don't even want to read this out. Who said that? Barry, how do you know about this, you pervert? I've never heard of this. Oh dear. And who's the woman in question? Oh no, I wouldn't be. No, I wouldn't be into that. Oh, that's deeply unpleasant, and there will certainly be no mentioning of that. I prefer the Japanese noodles. But Barry, sometimes I worry about you, mate. A very good evening, Boaty and everyone, says Andrew, aka Ivor Spotty Botty. Mark on Motoring is with us. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. What did you do at the yard today? Asks Skick. And good evening, Skick. Skick, I tried to stay alive, is all. I spent a lot of time at the yard today just hiding in a car with the engine running. It was about -4. The heating wouldn't work in the caravan. Um, so, oh, what did I do at the yard today? I got very, very cold. Had lunch, filmed the lunch, sat in a car shivering, and that was pretty much today. Is it snowing up Windy Bum yet? No, it's not, Pingo. It's just bitterly cold. And I've had a look at the old weather fivecast. You know, I may be employing inflationary language today because everything else is inflating in this inflation crisis. So I think language should be inflated as well. So instead of a forecast, we'll have a fivecast. And I've checked the fivecast, and it's going to be very cold tonight. It's going to be very cold tomorrow night. Then Wednesday night, it's going to be stupidly cold. Oh, mes apologies, mes amis. I do apologise for that. Absolutely outrageous. Wednesday night is going to be biblically and titanically cold. But I didn't see any particular mention of snow, just incredible cold. But then after Wednesday night, it's going to gradually get quite a lot warmer. And by the weekend, they're talking about double figures in the old Fivecast. Yeah, double figure temperatures. So that'll be nice. We've got to get through tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday night, darlings. Joe is here, Cars with JC. Good evening, Jason and chat. Hope we are all well and had a good day. Jason, I hope you had a fantastic birthday. Mate, and the steak looked lush. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, mate. The steak was lovely, I have to say. Belated happy birthday, Boaty, says Mark. Thank you very much. Pottering lube, says Andrew, for some reason. No, I don't know. He's buggered about 10 times now, says Cheeseburger. Must have been an eventful birthday. No Boaty's pottering lube. Oh, right. Oh, in my little bag of delight. No, there is no. The pottering lube lives in the bedside drawer. Yeah, no pottering lube in there. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I need a duplicate pottering lube. Condoms, bet they're out of date, says Cheeseburger. They say that you can carry a litre of water in a condom, says Mark on Motoring. Bloody hell. Well, that's just showing off, isn't it? Please stop moving away from the microphone, says Trisha Alderman. The microphone is dying, I think, says Joe. Cheeseburger says, Mark, Boaty would carry a litre of vodka in a condom. Yeah, I would do that. You're cracking up. Oh, better sound now. Good. Yeah, I think the sound thing was the overused interweb. Good evening, Boaty, and all here, says Mark Prasad. Don't Google it, says Bad Books. Too late. Oh, Cheeseburger. I'm not reading that. I'm sitting here dying laughing, says Barry. Cheeseburger says, if we are applying inflation, does this mean an average Rover is now worth $5,000? Pottering lube, he carries copper slip grease, whatever that is. And I appear to have caught up with the comments. So, I told you I was going to be professional tonight, didn't I? Look at me, all professional, keeping up with the comments. This is a viewer-led live stream. You decide where we go. Oh, you decide where we go. Oh, yes. So, yeah. So we are going to be utterly professional tonight, and you guys will be ultimately responsible for the direction that all of this lipstick around the nipple goes in. I'm not reading that one either. Outrageous, and you should all be ashamed of yourselves. Especially, I blame Barry and Cheeseburger. It's all their fault. Nothing to do with me. Now, if you are oh God, I've moved away. Hopefully the microphone is okay now and you can hear me. Can you still hear me when I'm over there? He's up to date, so we can all go to bed. Excellent, you can still hear me. Splendid, that's good news. I've forgotten what I was about to say then. I was about to tell you something. Oh, yeah. If you are in the Facebook group, Boaty's World on Facebook, it's average. Then you will see what I had for lunch today. And I got my first battered sausage of 2024. And I'm very happy about that. And because I have no secrets from you fine people, I'm going to let you know in exact detail. I had battered sausage, I had a medium chips, and I had a large curry sauce. And I had the English curry sauce because they offer English, Chinese, or Irish. And I went for the English. So I've tried the other two and I didn't like them. In fact, one of my very early lunch videos with mustard was actually called The Disappointment of Irish Curry Sauce. And when you name a video after the disappointment of a curry sauce, then you know that that curry sauce has been disappointing. When you move around, the sound is fine, says Mark said. Skip. Sorry. Sorry. Skick says the prices of Rover could go up. Don't forget it's Yacht 24, remember? And then he had something else that I can't read out. But it did make me laugh. Oh dear. Oh, I had a quick squiz on Facebook earlier on, and Barney is now down to 550 quid. So if anybody wants a cheap Streetwise, I know where there is one, and it's a car that you will know. It's a bargain at that. You can't go too far wrong for that money. Joe, you should buy it, mate, and have it as your runaround. You wanted a runaround. Streetwise is perfect for that. And you already know the faults it's got and the good points. And God knows it's cheap enough. Yeah, buy Barney, Joe. That way he'll still be in the community. I'll pop down and pick you up. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Don't you worry about that. You're only down the road. Irish curry sauce? Asks Mark. Yeah, apparently it's a thing. The chip shop in the village in Milne Row, which is where the Yard of Dreams is located, they offer English, Irish, or Chinese curry sauce, which for a very basic little old school chip shop seems to be quite a bewildering choice. But I didn't like the Irish curry sauce at all. Irish curry sauce is the best, insists Joe. Battered sausage. Did you have an extreme experience with the lady from Liverpool? Oh dear, 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 dear. Bless her. Oh, bless, bless their tracksuit bottoms. And Joe is amused by Skick's remark, as was I. Cheeseburger says, I've just Googled koodles, as in Nuntival koodles, on the Urban Dictionary. I wish I hadn't bothered. Well, I'm not going to do that then. And Barry Scrotter says, Cheeseburger, that Urban Dictionary is fantastic. Mark said, I finally had Savoy and chips. Savoy was tasteless, but the chips were okay. Oh, you're buying something else, mate. Okay, Joe. You don't get much for 550 quid these days, says Mark. Now that the Mayor of London is offering £2,000 for old cars, people think they're all worth that. He does need saving, Joe. Somebody buy Barney. It's advertised now for 550 quid, and he'll definitely take 530, possibly even less. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. And just to be clear, that bit of wind breakage was entirely professional because I gave it a countdown. So it becomes an official professional part of the proceedings, just in case anybody was going to. The man at this rate is going to sell it for like 200 quid. Yeah. Oh, no. I'm just really worried that he's going to end up in bad hands. And he doesn't deserve a bad end, doesn't that little cat? I mean, I would very gladly buy him back myself and have him as a daily and a doer-upper. But well, sadly, skint. You know how it goes. Why is Barney not a seller? Mark, he's advertised it really badly. He's advertised it as having to be. He's just made it sound. The advert makes it sound as if it's scrap. To be honest, he said it needs to be trailered away. It's sold, absolutely sold as seen, with no returns. And not only does he list what's wrong with it, he lists things that could be wrong with it, that he doesn't even know are wrong with it, but he lists things that could be. But seriously, you see an advert saying this has got to be trailered away, sold as seen, no returns, you're going to think scrap, aren't you? And he's probably only going to get an offer of scrap money. Now, as it happens, we know the car. So we know that it's far from being scrap. So if you or anybody you know is after, a half decent daily that's also a bit of a modern classic and possibly an appreciating asset, then you ain't going to get much better than old Barney for about the 500 quid mark, to be honest. Unprofessional farting there, Boaty, says Bad Book. No, it was professional. I gave a countdown. That means that it's okay. 200 quid. Does it come with a full tank of fuel, says Cheeseburger? He's so desperate to get rid of poor Barney. He's in bad hands with that bloke. Yeah. I can't read that one, Barry, for obvious reasons. I genuinely feel really bad about Barney. I'm kind of glad that Lewis has been saved, because I don't think Lewis was in particularly. The bank has already bought it once, hasn't he? I don't know if you want to buy it again. And we've got too many company cars. We need to be getting rid of some, not buying any more. Now, if I had Barney back, it would be as a personal car, and it would be my daily. So if anybody wants to buy one of mine, then buy one of mine, and I'll buy Barney. Although I'd probably send somebody else to go and get it. Oh dear. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be a good idea for me to go. Oh dear. So what else is there to tell you? You're kind of more up to date than you normally would be, because of course I did a live stream on Sunday. Thank you to all of you who joined me for that. So you're kind of up to date on my doing. So what's happened since Sunday? Oh, well, I went to work. That will come as no surprise to you. And it was Sabana's last night. So, I'll probably never see him again. He's off with Bikas to the new restaurant, which I think will be opening a week today, I think, possibly. And it's called, what's it called? Gurkha Palace, I think they've called it. And we have got a new guy. And I'm sure the new guy is absolutely lovely. I haven't learned his name yet, but I'm sure it'll be grand. I'm sure it doesn't matter that he wears white socks. Is that just a me thing? White socks with formal black wear seems a bit off to me, but maybe that's just me being old-fashioned. And they're sports socks as well, those little ankle jobs. How was the lunch guest? Asks General Cheeseburger. He was bloody cold, Cheeseburger. He was bloody cold. And yeah, lunch was rather splendid. And well, you will find out. It will probably go out tomorrow night in the 1919 slot, which should, with inflation, be the 2020 slot, but that would just get confusing. So we won't inflate that. Stephen S. Paul is with us from across the Heading Pond. Good evening, English people. Good evening to you. Is it cold where you are? Asked Cheeseburger. No, and no. Yes, Gurkha Palace, Stephen S. Paul, but not Gerka, Gurkha, as in the Gurkha regiment of the British Army, the Gurkha soldiers. For those of you who aren't aware, it's quite an elite element of the British Army, and the Gurkha is the Nepalese regiment, and they have a fearsome reputation, and it's bloody well earned, let me tell you. And quite a sad story, actually. I mean, it's the dream of a lot of Nepalese young boys to become a Gurkha, and it's the stuff that they have to go through to try and qualify in Nepal is just terrifying, and I do literally mean terrifying. And people die trying to become a Gurkha. And then the really sad part is that those that don't make it often feel such shame, and they feel that they've brought shame on their families, that they actually top themselves. It's tragic, really. But yeah, they are an incredibly elite regiment. The Nepali people are quite rightly very proud of them, and so it's become a tradition that that Nepali restaurants in the UK are known as Gurkha restaurants, and virtually everyone will have Gurkha somewhere in the name. So obviously we are Kathmandu Gurkha. There's the new one is Gurkha Palace. Castle Donington was Gurkha Mahal, which is palace again, but in a different language. There's Royal Gurkha. What's the one in what's the one in Alfreton? That's God, I can't remember what that one's called. Oh, never mind. It'll come to me. No, it hasn't skicked. My lump hasn't gone down. That's only going in one direction. I need to get to the doctors and get that whipped off. I'm with you, Boaty, says Mark on motoring. God, I almost called you Mom then. Mark on motoring, Mom. And that would sound very wrong, wouldn't it? I'm with you, Boaty. White socks with formal attire is a no-go. Yeah, but maybe that's old school thinking or British thinking or something. I don't know. But it did look wrong. I looked askance. And it's kind of with those little ankle socks, you've got the worst of both worlds. First of all, it looks as if it can look as if there are no socks at all, which is wrong with formal attire, very wrong. Okay on a beach, not okay for evening wear. And then when you do see a bit of sock, it's white with black shoes and black trousers and a black shirt. And that is just all sorts of wrong. 61 degrees. Stephen S. Paul says, Cheeseburger, it's a bit cold here. It's 61 degrees at the moment. And Cheeseburger says, 61 degrees, we would take that. What is 61 degrees in the one that I understand now? I used to understand 61 degrees, and now I've been converted into whatever the other one is, euros. So help me out, somebody. What's 61 degrees in euros? My dad, says Barry, had a really good mate who was a Gurkha. They fight with kitchen knives. They fight with a particular knife. We've got one in the restaurant. Fearsome looking thing, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. and I've got a mental block on the name. I know what the knife is called, of course I do, and I can't think about it because when they leave the regiment, they keep their knives, and they have a tradition that if they draw their knife, kakiri, it's called. That's right, and or kukri, however you pronounce it, Khukuri, I think it is. And they have a tradition that if they draw it, if they unsheath it, they cannot put it back until the knife has tasted blood. And they're fearsome looking things. Yeah, we've got one. We've got one in the display cabinet in Clay Cross. I think it's Bishnu's old one. My dad was a tank commander, by the way, says Barry. And Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger says the same thing. Barry, once drawn, a Gurkha's knife has to draw blood. Yeah, which kind of panicked me. First time I went into a kitchen with a load of ex-Gurkhas, and they're waving a bloody knife about, and I'm thinking, "Oh Jesus Christ, don't fancy this." That's like the old. That's like the. Oh, hang on, right. I think Joanna Lumley's dad was in the Gurkha regiment, says Mark. John says, that's like the joke. A man walked into a bar with a frog on his head. He was asked by the barman, how did it start? And the man replied, it started with a boil on my bum. That doesn't work. It would be the frog that replied, it started with a boil on my bum, wouldn't it, John? Not the man. I'm here all week anyway, he says. We haven't had any cycling content lately on the live stream, says John Marazzi. Let's have some more. Oh, it's 16 degrees in euros, 61. Oh, God, yeah, I'd take 16 degrees all day long at the moment. -4 it is here. Cheeseburger says, John, if I was a moderator, I'd ban you for that joke. Jimmy Quinn says, my dad was with the Gurkha in the Second World War. And Mark says, don't Gurkhas collect trophies, body parts off a kill? Oh, quite probably. That they're not people to mess with, put it that way. It did amuse me once when an Indian guy kicked off at Bish in Clay Cross. And I'm thinking of all the people that you want to kick off against, an ex-Gurkha would not be top of the list. Emily Gall is right in our midst. Hiya, Boaty. Love the vibe in here. Oh, that's very kind. What does Rue de Mirande mean, my man? That is just, it's literally just, Rue is French for road. It's a French road sign, basically. And I nicked it when I was living in France, brought it back, shoved it on my door. So that's it. It's just the name of the road. No particular meaning. It's just a little keepsake stroke memory item. Could I put my name down to be a moderator? Boaty says Skick. I think it would suit me. Bloody hell, we'd have you'd ban everybody. Oh yeah. Oh, you'd be looking for the lurkers, wouldn't you? You'd be looking for the hidey ones and banning them. Good old Skick. We were talking about you today, mate. Me and Mustard were. We hope we get to meet you one day soon. It all ends up in the curry, says Cheeseburger. Yeah, all the body parts. Mark says Joanna Lumley campaigned to get the Gurkhas military pensions. Yeah, she did. She did. Now, I know an inside story behind that, and I daren't tell you. I daren't put it on public record. But there's there's a story behind the story in terms of the kind of headline guy that was like the poster boy for that movement. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it was a very worthwhile campaign. But let's just say that the UK Nepali community were not entirely behind that campaign because they had the inside knowledge. I'm just cheering myself up tonight, Cheeseburger, says John, you master of shithousery. New meaning to staff curry, it would be. Oh, well done, Cheeseburger. You all know that we love a Father Ted. I missed a Father Ted reference. I missed it. I saw it, and I don't think I read it out. Oh, God, how far to go is that? How far to go? Oh, God. I'm going a long way back. I'm sure I missed a Father Ted reference. Oh, maybe I'm imagining it. Or maybe I did read it out. No, I'm buggered if I can find it now. Cheeseburger says, this is aimed at bad books. What goes in the black pudding? Boaty might get that, not the 9 o'clock news reference. Yes, I totally get that one. And that was the, it was it Wiggly's? No, God, I can't remember the name of the company. Pies, Wiggly's Pies, and the work experience people. and what was the name? Rumbly's Pies, wasn't it? It was Rumbly's Pies. That's right. So how are you getting on with all of the work experience? Well, we're using them mainly for filling in. I mean, the joke was that they were very obviously putting all of the work experience people in the pies. Well, I must say, Mr. Rumbly, you are the ideal employer, and not a hint of racial prejudice. No, bloody well I hope not. Care for a slice of black pudding? Oh dear. What? Simon Weston, says Barry. Now there is one hell of a man. Agreed. Oh, hello, Simon's here. We don't often have the pleasure of Simon's company these days. And it's a Father Ted reference. Gotta love a Father Ted reference. How did that gobshite get on TV again? And it's a fair question. Kent Gurkha Limited, says Mark Prasad. They are a fantastic outfit. They work at many grammar secondary schools around here. Their motto, Hammy Jethro Cold Chain, apparently means there is nobody quite like us. And yeah, Cheeseburger. Hi, Simon. Long time no see. Have you made a decision on the fate of Brian yet, Goatee? Asks Pingu. Brian. Right. I think the decision with Brian is to give him a stay of execution. So we will give Brian until the end of February. And then that is a definite cutoff. If he's not sorted by the end of February, then he's being sold for spares or scrapped. There, I said it. I mean, God knows he's having a fighting chance. But, you know, how long do you let it go before you put the poor little sod out of his misery? Drink! Skick says Brian has been booked in for repair to celebrate Mustard's 70th birthday. That's not far away now, is it? Remember, Mustard is older than me. Quite a lot older, actually. It's not for me to tell you exactly how much older, but I mean, you can tell by just looking at us, can't you? Fair enough, Jason, says Joe. I'm sure Brian will get fixed. Cheeseburger says, Skick, is that next week? Exactly. God, here we go. More Father Dead. That gobshite again. Is he never off the air? Yeah, well, somebody's got to keep going where Teddy Wogan left off, haven't they? Oh, I miss Wogan. I miss Wogan. There's nothing good left on the radio now. The only thing I listen to, who was I talking about this with? Oh, it might have been you lot on the live stream. Oh no, actually, it might have been over lunch today. The only thing I listen to on the radio now is Lisa Tarbuck, 6 till 8, Saturday night, Radio 2. Everything else is gone. I stopped listening in the mornings when Wogan left and bloody Chris Evans took over. Can't stand Chris Evans. Can't abide the man. So that was that. That was morning's gone. Well, not all of morning's gone because, you know, Ken Bruce, Popmaster. But then Ken Bruce went, so that was that. I always listened to Paul O'Grady on a Sunday night, and then he was sacked, and then you know, just to make sure that he wouldn't get back on air, then the BBC had him killed allegedly. So he definitely won't be coming back. So that was Sunday night's finished. And all that's left on the radio now that's worth listening to is Lisa Tarbuck. I do enjoy Lisa Tarbuck. I don't mean in a physical sense. I enjoy her radio show, darlings. If I could afford to import Brian, I'd have him in America, says Barry. Oh, that would be cool. They'd love that. But I'm enjoying Dusty Fog, my dog, too much. My dog? My Dodge. That's the Talbot Horizon Turbo thing, isn't it? That is fabulous. I enjoyed that video. Proper old school exciting steering wheel. God, do you remember the excitement of a steering wheel? What feature number 1? There you go. It's I haven't put my wine in the freezer. That's a job that one's doing, isn't it? We've not had a feature yet, have we? Feature 1. 3, 2, 1. What was the last car that you swapped a steering wheel on? And I can tell you what the last car I did it on was. And I don't mean I mean swap for a completely different, non-original steering wheel. Not like swapping not like swapping a plastic steering wheel for a Rover 25 for a leather steering wheel for a Rover 25. I mean a totally different modified thing. With no airbag. That just got a ringing in my ear. What they call it? Tinnitus. So I mean a non-airbag steering wheel. And the last one I did was a 106, Peugeot 106. I bought a 106 diesel in white. And I'm trying to remember, it was a posh model. It had a sunroof and I think it had electric windows. And I decided that I would like rally it up, not as in a rally car, as in a 106 rally, you know, with the white wheels. And I put in it a steering wheel from, this isn't going to, no, I can't use this one because it was a steering wheel from a 106, the sporting model. So that doesn't count. All right. The last car was, God almighty, I'm going back to about my 3rd or 4th car, I think. And it was a Volkswagen Derby, I think. Volkswagen Derby. I bought it off the father of one of the girls that I was at college with. And I specifically went out with her so that I got a better deal off her dad. And it was a Volkswagen. I'm sure it was a Derby. It was basically the Polo with a boot. I can remember this car. It was dark green, and I changed the steering wheel for one of those racy ones because it had already been a bit boy raced up. It had the bonnet pin things. What do you call them? Like the pins on the edge of the bonnet that. So you got the thing on a bit of wire, and they keep the bonnet down. I mean, totally pointless. And the thing I remember most about that car, I didn't realize when I bought it. I bloody realized soon afterwards. Oh, I've got this jumper on again. Oh, I forgot about this. I can't wear this for live streams because it blends with the wall behind me and it makes it look as if I've just got a great big floating head that's just floating aimlessly around the place. And now I've seen it, I can't unsee it. I need to stop looking at that. So anyway, so the thing I remember about this Volkswagen Derby, there was obviously a leak in the heater matrix, and the heater matrix had been completely bypassed. So it had no heater, and it was absolutely freezing. And I remember I had a new girlfriend, or a new potential girlfriend. I went out on a date with Beth, who was a student nurse, and we went back to her place. Oh, this is going to sound awful. Oh, this is going to sound so bad. And we had a nice date, and we went back to her student nurse's residence thing, where we met her mate Joe. And Joe was a lot better looking than Beth. So I thought, right, swapsies. Oh, terrible. I'm so ashamed. Yeah, and I took Joe to Alton Towers. I invited Joe to Alton Towers, and I thought, I can't take her in this bloody Volkswagen thing because we'll freeze our tits off. And I didn't want her tits to be frozen off because I was hoping to have a go on them. And so I borrowed my mother's car, which was a Citroen CX 2-litre Athena. And we went in that, and we had a puncture on the way. These things happen. I just changed the wheel. And Joe was very impressed that I was able to change a wheel. And we had a fun day at Alton Towers. God, that's the first time I've thought about Joe for ages and ages and ages. And this is the Joe, if you remember back to a previous story, that as well as being a student nurse, and in a bizarre thing, something to do with the family, was actually a helicopter pilot as well. And she was the one that I was with when I met Noel Tidybeard, and he really pissed me off. And anyway, you've heard that story before. Skik says, I missed the Bionic Man, Steve Austin, the $6 million. How many $1 million was it? 6 million, I think. I preferred him in, what was the stuntman thing that he was in? The Fall Guy. That was it. And in a minute, I'll remember the theme tune. 'Cause I'm the unknown stuntman, the made Eastwood such a star. Yeah, and there was quite a nice lady in that who wore those denim cut-offy genie things, wasn't there? Happy days. Boaty, spirit of choice, says Mark. Not just type, but specific bottle. Vodka. And well, any vodka is good vodka. My favorite vodka is stupidly expensive, and that would be what's it called? That would be Grey Goose. But Smirnoff Red, Smirnoff Black, Smirnoff Blue. And vodka is the only spirit that I've ever really been into. never got into any other spirits. They're all mad about JD, Jack Daniels, at work. Doesn't do anything for me, I'm afraid. I've always been a vodka man. Anyone wondering why Dusty Fogg, says Barry, he was the hero in J.T. Edson's Western books? Oh, there we are. Tickle the like, people, says John Stoodley. And oh, yes, 37 of you watching and only 10 of you have tickled that like button. But in fairness, maybe the other 27 think this is absolute pants and don't wish to go on record as liking it. And that would be, oh, hello, it's only 1 o'clock. Look at that. It's 11 o'clock, darlings. Time for an intermission. I will catch up with the comments and then we will have an intermission while I pour some wine and then we will enter part 2, the alcohol section. Oh, yes. Be afraid. Be very afraid. I like the name Dusty Fogg. I think that's a brilliant name. Everybody's being mean about Brian. My youngest, says Mark, told her Catholic school teachers that her favourite episode of Father Ted was the one where Ted kicked Bishop Brennan up the arse. That was the best episode. That's got to be everybody's favourite episode of Father Ted, hasn't it? I mean, there were some classic lines in that. You're such a top-of-the-range bishop. I'd say that you could give Bishop Brennan a good old kick up the arse. And was that the episode where he said, "And don't call me Len, you little bollocks"? Oh dear. Cheeseburger says, DJs, ROP Annie Nightingale. Oh yeah, that was recent, wasn't it? Try Boom Radio. Simon Bates, David Hamilton, Les Ross, and many others. Ken Bruce is now on Greatest Hits Radio, says Bad Books. And Cheeseburger listened to Ken Bruce this morning while driving through Wolverhampton. The Dodge Omni GLH and GLHS. Wacky little cars, says Stephen S. Paul. They're brilliant. The last steering wheel I swapped was on a Mark III Escort, says Cheeseburger. Mark says the only car I've swapped steering wheel on was a Renault 5. Put a sporty-looking metal and black vinyl 3-spoke wheel on. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I've done any others. I'm sure I put a wooden motor lighter on a car, and I can't remember which one it was. I'm sure I did. I definitely put a wooden motor lighter on a car that I owned, and I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it'll come back to me. Wine will help. Barry says, I took one off to do the ignition switch on my current car, and that's it. Jimmy Quinn says, last steering wheel change, 1967 Mini Cooper S. Oh, yeah. I've owned a couple of Minis, and I definitely swapped the steering wheel on at least one of them. And again, it was for a 3-spoke leather rimmed chunky job with the round holes in the spokes. Mine was a business Metro 1.1 City, says John, and I swapped it for the MG Turbo one. Oh, good swap. The Renault 5 is coming back this year as an electric car, says Barry Scrotter. I quite like the idea of that. You don't see VW Derbys anymore, says Barry Scrotter. I like a VW Derby. Do you know what I really liked? And I would really like one of them. I don't know what mark it is, but the VW Jetta from about, from the 80s, the excitingly chunky one. I would love one of those. I don't know what mark Golf or whatever it equates to, but there was a period of VW Jetta where I thought they just looked so cool and I wanted one desperately. And I've never owned one. Maybe I should get one now. Maybe I should get... I'm going to finish the comments before I pour some wine. Let's be professional about this. Cheeseburger. You could buy Astrali sports steering wheels from Halford. I remember those. You had to buy a bus to mount it. Correct. I never mounted my bus. Has anyone else? Feature 2. Have you ever mounted your bus? And my answer is yes, more than one. Not too long ago, says Stephen S. Paul, I removed the chain link wheel from one of my 69 Impalas. God awful. Makes you wonder what goes through people's heads. Glad I went to school pre-Father Ted, says Bad Books. I wound the nuns up enough when I locked my bike to the railing around the statue of the Virgin Mary. You look like Holly off Red Dwarf, says Bad Books. Not as good looking, obviously. Like the floating head on the merch. Oh, God, the merch. The floating head. Oh, dear God. Oh, that's traumatized me. Oh, right. And apparently this electric Renault 5 has been well publicised. Used electric values are plummeting, Barry, says Cheeseburger. I can't see them coming in. Too much worldwide backlash. Yeah. Won't be like the old Renault 5. Shame. Yes, I suppose it is. If I could have any Renault 5, I would have the Monaco. I must be the only person in the world who didn't like the Renault 5 GT Turbo. God, one of the most deeply unreliable cars ever. Citroen CX, says Cheeseburger, should have had the Safari version, shaggin' wagon on wheels. I have owned I've owned both. I've owned a Safari and a Familiar. The difference being that the Familiar, I mean, they were the same estate. Oh, I can't have wine until I've finished the bloody comments, and that's going to be about midnight at this rate. The Familiar had the extra row of seats, but the Safari and the Familiar were. And I owned those when I was married, and Mrs. Boaty made me get rid of them because she said they looked too much like a hearse, except that she used to call a hearse a Hurst. Never knew why, just one of her little things. I made good money on those anyway, both of them. Yes, I know, says Buddy Scrotter. In America, they've stopped making some electric cars. Heather Thomas, that's right. She was the one in the Fall Guy. Well done, Cheeseburger. Oh, ended up in a wheelchair, I think. Oh, dear. Just have your wine, Jason. We can wait. Oh, I'm going to earn it. I'm off to bed now, says Joe. Got work in the morning. Good night, all. Good night, Joe. Thank you for being here. Stephen S. Paul says, the $6 million man. I had a near identical clone of Colt Servers. Oh, is that his name? Hero truck. It was a nice truck. I didn't like it. I parted it out and scrapped it. Got it cheap and still made $450. All right, there are too many comments. I'm having my wine. Intermission, darlings. Join us again for part 2. Where I just caught a glimpse. Herr Dumpy Dumpy is making a welcome reappearance. Herr Dumpy Dumpy. For those who don't know, Herr Dumpy Dumpy is what Mr. Bump was called in the German versions of the Mr. Men books. And if I say it myself, I've earned a little drink tonight for freezing my titties off at the yard all day. God, it was terrifyingly cold. Need to sort out some heating for that caravan. I think the easiest way around it, to be honest, because when it's properly cold, that little thing uses up. I mean, I used a can of butane gas in that little heater thing you've seen, and it, the gas all got used up in a heartbeat, and it didn't make any real difference to the temperature. What we need in the caravan, and I say caravan because it's a northern caravan, and in the north they place the emphasis on the van rather than the cara. Hey up, lad. Lovely spot for caravan. Make some gravy, duck. I've not had my breakfast. And that is my impersonation of a northerner. I've been to the north. Um, yeah, what we need is a proper big gas bottle so that we can just turn the cooker on and that gets the place nice and warm. So I think that can be a job for next Monday. We've got the gas bottles. So we need to take one of the gas bottles to a gas bottle emporium, swap it for a full one, and get the cooker sorted. Because otherwise, I am boycotting the yard until spring. I can't cope with another day like this. Cheers, darlings. You're very good health. Oh, that's nice. And so much nicer after water. I used to hate the wine after Vimto. Spoiled it. Completely spoiled it. Wine and Vimto is not a good mix. Right, where did I get to? Skick is asking Joe if there are going to be any more videos. And Joe says, Skick, I've been far too busy with work and other things, but I will get some more videos out soon. Barry says, Cheeseburger, the reduction in battery capacity as they get older is a good giveaway that they aren't worth buying. Oh, right, we're talking electric cars there. And Cheeseburger says, it's an 8-year life in an electric car. Indeed, says Barry, which wouldn't be a problem if the batteries were cheap and easy to replace. And, oh, right, and everybody's saying good night to Joe. Bloody hell, if Joe keeps saying good night to everybody, he's still going to be here when we finish. The Jetta was a good car, says Barry. They got the back end look right on those. Yeah, and I'd forgotten how much I wanted one, and now I really, really do want one. Are they fetching stupid money now? Are they one of those cars that's fetching stupid money? What the one I would love. My mate Mark had one. Mark Weaver. He had a Jetta. I'm sure he had a GTI. Or am I going mad? Am I going mad? Or was there a Jetta GTI at some point in the? It would be the very. When would it be? When was I friends with Mark? I would have been 20. So it would be, well, that would have been in the very early 90s, 1991, 92. The car would have been a few years old. So it would probably be a very late 80s. Was there a Jetta GTI? And if there was, I want one. Who knew I wanted a Volkswagen? I'd forgot how much I'd always wanted one of them. Mark says, my old boss had a Mark II Golf-derived Jetta in the early 2000s, and it was a nice car. And Bad Book says the Jetta Mark II were the chunky ones, and the Mark I or Mark II cost a fortune now. Oh, I like the Mark III derived Jetta, but you don't hardly see any. Oh God, so they fetch stupid money, right? So okay, I can't have one of those then. Mark on Motoring says I'd have the Monaco 2 Boaty with a 1721cc engine and manual gearbox. I didn't realise he had the 1.7 in them. I didn't realise that was available in the Renault 5, to be completely honest. I remember the 1.7 from the Renault 21. And the Renault 21 was quite a cool car as well, actually, now I think about it. Now I really want a Renault. Oh, 41 people watching. I think that's equaled our best figure ever, hasn't it? 41. 14 of you have tickled that like button. Oh, it's gone back down to 37. That'll teach me. Never mind. We hit 41. I saw it. Yeah, I remember the 1.7 in the Renault 21, and I think I remember it in the 19 as well, but I don't remember it in the 5. The last few I've seen for sale were 1.4s, Clio engine with the 3-speed auto. I'd go for the auto. I love a small automatic. Oh, and the brakes are done now on the Amica, and that's cool. I love that car. Here we are, Herr Dumpy Dump. Guten Abend, Herr Boaty. Passen Sie Ihren gesamten Inhalt auf, verdammt Fotzen an. Not a clue. I mean, guten Abend, I can manage. Good evening, Herr Boaty, me. Passen Sie. Oh, is that? Pass you the. No, not a clue. Not a clue. Does anybody speak German? Where's Beards and Bangers when you need him? If anybody can translate that for me, I'll be very grateful. Was the Mark III Jetta badged as the Vento in the UK, but a Jetta in the US? Asked Mark. Oh, that's ringing a bell now, the Vento. So I need to Google these. So I presume it's the Mark II that. Right, so they said the Mark II was a chunky one, and that was the one that I really wanted. Oh. Okay, feature 4. Cars that you've always wanted but never owned. And I don't mean super exotic things that were out of reach. I mean in reach cars that you've always wanted but never owned. I always wanted an SD3, a Rover 216. Ideally a Vitesse or Van Pla, but I've always wanted a 216 Rover and I've never had one. One came up for sale on one of the Facebook groups a little while ago, and it was a Van Pla and it was in silver. And if I'd have had the money, I would have bought it without hesitation. It was a really nice one. And in theory, I could have one of those. I'd have to swap, sell some of my cars to buy it. But, in theory, I could have one. And that is a car that I've always wanted, never owned. And the other one would be the Jetta. Back in the day when they were almost current, I really wanted one, never owned one. And feature number 13, NAF cars that you had really good fun in. And my one for that is, I was going out with a girl called Natasha, and I took her on holiday around North Wales. And I had some money at that point. I must have had some money because my first date with Natasha, I turned up in a Rolls-Royce Shadow 2, Silver Shadow 2 in black. Really nice car. I bought it from South Wales. And I took her to the Bel Air. Cheeseburger, you'll know the Bel Air. I bet you've been there more than once. Oh, I bet a load of you will know it. So I obviously had money at that point. But when we went on holiday to North Wales, I took what was my favourite car at that time. It was white and it was a Vauxhall Nova Saloon. It was a 2-door Vauxhall Nova Saloon in white with the narrowest tyres that I've ever seen on a motorised vehicle. I mean, they were narrower than bloody motorbike tyres. 4-speed gearbox, bog basic. I loved that little thing. And we had a blast heading around North Wales in that. Actually, we did Mid Wales and North Wales. She was a nice girl, Natasha. She ended up working for a nursing agency. And she did at least one shift, possibly more, at the nursing home that my mother ran. And this was quite a few years later. And they were chewing the fat during a break on their night shift. And they were talking about stuff. And they must have been all women because they were talking about boyfriends. And this Natasha said, I once went out with this really posh bloke. his name was blah, blah, blah. And he picked me up for the first date in a Rolls Royce. And my mother said, "Oh, yes, that's my son." What are the chances? God, that's the first time I've remembered that for about 20 years. She was nice, Natasha. She was lovely, actually. When I think back to all of the lovely women that have been part of my life, and if I hadn't been such a twerp, I could have married one of them, continued not to be a twerp, and I wouldn't be on my own now, would I? I would be married to somebody really lovely who was a hell of a lot older now than when I met them. Natasha was, she was lovely. Bless her. A lot of motocross riders had safaris. You could get 3 bikes in the back with a seat down, or 4 tramps from Liverpool, says Cheeseburger. Lots of old names appearing tonight, says Cheeseburger. They all want to come to Untival. Everybody wants to come to Untival. Why wouldn't they? It's the coolest festival in town. Oh dear. The van should get warm quickly with the amount of hot air in it, says Cheeseburger. It bloody didn't. You need to sort the caravan out for when we visit Boaty, says John. Well, hopefully the weather will be a bit, oh, mind you, yeah, February, early February. Yeah, it could still be absolutely freezing. Right. At the moment, darlings, we haven't got a do lunch with for next week. There's a possibility that the cancellation from last week, but at the moment we haven't got one booked in. So next week is going to be getting the caravan sorted a bit. I've got to go to the yard because Dickie Dum Dum's MOT. So we do need to get the caravan sorted. So we need to go get a bottle of gas and get it so that we can just put the burners on the heating. The actual heating in the caravan either doesn't work or we don't know how to make it work. But from what I can tell, it just doesn't work. So what I did before, which would be last winter now, wouldn't it? I just put the cooker on, and that was grand. That got it lovely and warm, double quick, because you've got there's a 4 burner hob in the caravan. That gets it super warm in super quick time, which would be good for the caravan as well, because you don't want it getting damp and whatnot. And it is getting a bit, it's bound to get a bit of damp in there, isn't it? So if we can get a bottle of gas, how much is a bottle of gas these days? Oh, is it going to be scarily expensive? Because I'll have to pay for it. Oh dear. It's not the massive bottle that I've got outside with my barbecue. It's like the next size down, and there are 2 of them that sit in the front of the caravan. So if we get one of those so that we can at least get the cooker on, then that will solve the problem. Now, it's a year ago, so apologies, but I can't remember who very kindly gave me that for my birthday last year. But I just want to thank them very much, because I don't know what it's supposed to. Bloody hell, 70 quid. Christ above. Yeah, well, that's not going to be happening. Oh, we'll have to have a look for a second-hand one. I presume this is some sort of spoon utensil rest or something for the kitchen. It's got a chili on there. But this is absolutely perfect for spanking. And it has been used for exactly that. So I just want to thank whoever it was who very kindly gave me that. It's an excellent spanking paddle. So thank you. Just because I don't think I've said thank you before. Makes a very satisfying thwack. The BBC used Citroen Safaris to follow and film the horse racing. For picture quality, presumably, they always looked very cool. Yes, I knew that actually, because didn't Top Gear or somebody do a thing about that? And it was obviously because of the hydro pneumatic suspension. I'm sure they mentioned that when they were doing something on the XM. I'm sure it was Top Gear. I might be wrong. I'm not sure about the Jetta GTI. I'll have to look, says Barry Scrotter. Bad Book says it was a Jetta Mark II GTI. I think 16 valve were only. And I bet you that's the one that I wanted. Finding one now would be a miracle, says Barry. Yeah. God, I wonder what they're going for. Maybe I'll just set my sights on a Rover 216. I really would love one. I've told you before that when I was a student at uni, my rich mate had one. He was from Barnt Green, one of the massive posh houses in Barnt Green, and he had one as his like second car. I don't mean his second car as in he had two cars. I mean he had a car when he passed his test, and then he got this Rover. Richard Onions he was, and he was actually called Richard Onions. He didn't pronounce it onions. He actually pronounced it onions. And I wrote a poem about him and his bunions, which really wasn't very good at all. But I just remember being incredibly impressed being a passenger in that car. Long before I could drive, I was late passing my driving test. I didn't pass until I was 21, I think. Well, I didn't take a test until I was 21. And I just remember being massively impressed by this car. And then after that, Mark had one, Jetta guy. He sold his Jetta and bought a 216 Vitesse. And I was very impressed with that as well. And I wanted one more than I wanted anything. And then all the time that they were easily available and easily affordable, I didn't bother getting one. I've just got bloody Rolls Royce Silver Shadows and Bentley Turbo R's and Ferraris and Lamborghinis instead. So I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking of there. I really don't. But I would love one now. That would be a really good teenage aspiration box to tick. That red car will sell quickly, says Skick. It's a nice little car. Yeah, hopefully. I think it's going on sale tomorrow. Mark says the 1.7, and it's an automatic as well, Skick. So there's always a market for small autos, isn't there? And I think it's cute. Mustard thinks it's gopping. I think it's cute. The 1.7 engine was in the Renault 5 GTX and Monaco, as well as the GTE in some markets. It was in the 11, 19, and 21, as well as a number of Volvos, such as the 300 series and the sporty 480. There you are. I had a 480. I had a 480 turbo. And when I got, my dad really liked it, so I gave it to him. And he had it for quite a while, actually. God, I'd forgotten about that as well. No, he didn't, Jimmy Quinn. Well, actually, you might have. Hubby speaks German, says Cheeseburger. Just saying. Does he? Does he really? I never knew that. We have, says Stephen S. Paul, a silver Volkswagen Atlantic GLS sedan in one of the other yards. It's a 1986 and it's been in the same spot since the 90s. Oh, Bad Book says to Cheeseburger, O'Sullivan doing the commentary and Derek and Clive did a great skit. Yeah, the Derek and Clive one. Big dick getting in between the blinkered buttocks. Big tits coming up on the outside. And the wanker. Oh, that's got this one demonetized, hasn't it? I have actually had a live stream demonetized, darlings. I think it was the Christmas night one actually got demonetized. First one for a while. Okay, feature number 69. Obviously, hubby imported the car from Australasia. Matt imported the car from America. What car would you like to import from either of those? And I can tell you exactly. I've only ever thought of importing one American car. And the first time that I lived or spent time in the States, as you know, I was based in Chicago. And all of the cabs in Chicago then were yellow, obviously. And they were, I think there were still some Checkers, but most of them were Chevrolet Caprice. And I loved the idea of having a bloody huge, massive V8 Chevy as a private hire or Hackney carriage vehicle. So if I was going to import a car from the States, it would be a Chevrolet Caprice, but specifically a taxi. It would have to be a taxi. And there was a time I really wanted to do it because I've always been a little bit obsessed with taxis. My dad became a Hackney carriage driver. So a lot of my childhood was spent in the back of a taxi. And I have owned two. I owned an FX4 and I owned a Series 1 Metro cab. And they were fully done up with meters and everything, the full 9 yards. And in the very early days of the internet, I was part of a website called Not for Hire, which was dedicated to people who ran taxis, Metros and FX4s and oh God, what came after the FX4? The Fairway, which had the FX4 had and the Fairway had the 2.7 litre Nissan engine, quite a lot more reliable. They used to rot like hell, of course. And the Metro cabs didn't rot because they were fiberglass and they had the Transit engine in them. I loved my Metro cab. It's my Metro cab that I took across France with the family twice. Drove it right through the middle of Paris. So given that, and I would still love another taxi. It's something that I occasionally look at when I get 5 or 10 minutes free. I find myself looking at taxis because I would love like a TX1 or a TX2 gold in silver, if that's not a contradiction in terms. Gold is the trim level. You had bronze, silver, gold. So, and TX2s certainly are not uncommon in silver. So one of those in the gold trim level, I would absolutely love. I would very happily swap one or more of the fleet for a nice TX2. But I would also love a Chevrolet Caprice, and I wouldn't care but a taxi, a proper yellow ex-Chicago taxi. And if I win the lottery, I'll buy one. If there are still any about, I suppose they haven't been used for quite a while, have they? How old is Mustard? He won't mind you saying, says Skick. And Bad Book says 53/54. Well, you can add 10 years to that, Mark. Cheeseburger says, I always wanted an XR2 Mark II or Mark III XR3. I had normal bottles of both. I had normal models of both. Sadly, can't afford one. They cost a fortune and a divorce would follow. I've had the XR3. I've not had an XR2, and and that was another car that I always fancied for a personal connection. My first date with Zoodle Twips with Zoe, who I was head over. I've told you before. I took her to Worcester and we drove her car, which was a Fiesta XR2. And she was playing Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill album. And that is when I heard track 8 for the first time, Head Over Feet. And that's the one that stuck with me all these years because Zoe's last boyfriend had been an absolute swine. And she was so never going to date again, never going to trust another man. Zoe used to work for me, by the way. She was one of my telesales girls. And it took me months and months and months to persuade her to go out with me. And so that song always meant a hell of a lot because I thought it was, it played the first time that we were in the car together. And I just thought, yeah, that's exactly what this is. Because, and well, I've told you how that ended, but hey ho, there you are. For me, says Buddy Scrotter, the dream car would be the Astra Mark II GTE. They're about 10k plus now. Bloody hell, are they? Mark says, I always wanted a 2-litre 16-valve Macan coupe with the Clio Williams engine. I've had to settle for the 1.68 valve instead. Kung Fu Mistress had a Polo coupe, says Barry. That was fun. 53/54, says Skick. Really? You can add 10 years to that. Evening all, says Ashley Stewart. Cheeseburger says, NAF cars. I bought a new Toyota Paseo in 96. They never took off. Hairdresser's car, but I loved it. Very rare now. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. Barry says, the other Barry, Polo coupes are fetching good money now. God, it's amazing all the old crap that's fetching ridiculous money now. Herr Dumpy Dump says, Hubner Istein Lang. Hubner Istein, Hubner is a Langweiliger Muppet. Ian, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I've just called you. NAF car, says Barry. I had an Escort Mark V 1.8 diesel GLX that was pretty naff. Good car, though. The Escort Mark V was a seriously naff car. Fun in a naff car, says Ashley. Mel had an Escort Mark V called Nobby. Spent quite a lot of time in that car. Fun in a naff car, Skoda 125, says Ashley Stewart. All of us would have a barn full of cars if we won the lottery, says Barry Scrotter. Boaty's halfway there. Cheeseburger says the Bel Air is very tired now. The Ryder Cup at the Belfry was an event to go to. Yeah, well, the Ryder Cup at the Belfry is one of my claims to fame because when I owned Ghost and Nightingale's agency services, we did the entertainment for the Ryder Cup at the Belfry. And if you were there, Cheeseburger, you will know who the headlining act was. And it was Ronan Keating. And that was our biggest ever single punt. I won't tell you how much we earned from that, but it was good money. There you go. There's something you didn't know. The Bel Air used to be my place to go on a Thursday night. It was always a Thursday I went to. I quite liked it there. It was one of those places that that knew me, so I never had to queue for anything. And I never had to worry about parking my car, any of that sort of thing. So, and that kind of thing was always impressive. If you took a woman and you got that kind of treatment, then despite themselves, they would be impressed, even if they didn't show it. Skick says, what would you say a 2003 Golf GTI in red in very good condition and with an excellent history is worth? Skick, I wouldn't have a clue, mate. Not a clue, to be honest. Somebody else will tell you. My Astra Mark II 1.8 was fun, says Barry Scratter. 100 mile an hour everywhere. Blew the head gasket doing 120 down towards junction 7 of the M6. Right, I'm not allowed to show this comment from Ivor Spotty Boaty. I've tried and it won't allow me. Another moderator, one of the automated moderators, has said, nope, not having that. I had a 1.4 Astra Mark II, says Cheeseburger. Nice car. Oh, God, hair dumpy dumpy's at it. Oh, dear. Im heutigen Chat gibt es jede Menge Wischer. Not a clue. Jimmy Quinn says the most fun in the car was a 1976 white 7-litre Cadillac Coupe de Ville V8. Oh, and somebody said that the GTI is worth about $1,000. And Skick says, oh, is that it? It's probably worth more. I don't know. I got no idea how much it's worth. Caligas is not cheap. Change the flexi hoses to avoid a fatal big bang. Caravan gas, you only need one bottle, 20 quid for a refill, 70 quid is for a new one, says Cheeseburger. Sell your second bottle to the caravan shop and it will cost you net nothing. That is a good tip, and that is exactly what I will do. We'll find a local shop. I'll take both bottles, swap one for a full one, and they can have the other one. Thank you, Cheeseburger. That's a really good tip. I like things that cost me a net nothing. Sorry I'm late, says name me -1, but you started early. Monday is 10 o'clock, name me. Every other night it's 11. Monday is 10 because I'm not at work on a Monday. It's my day off, which I spend freezing my gonads off at a windswept car yard in the north of England. Oh, God. And anyway, even if I hadn't started earlier, even if I'd started at 11, you'd still be bloody late. So that's no excuse. I want a 1971 Buick Riviera boat tail, says Ashley Stewart. Good luck with that. Even I know they're worth a fortune. Markham Motoring says, don't hate me for this, but I actually like the look of the Pontiac Fiero, but not the one with the Iron Duke engine. Fiero. That's not the... Jesus, I've just got a horrible thought. Oh, no. Mark. I'm not wrong. I'm not imagining this. The Fiero. Right. Cheeseburger, help me out here. Somewhere around Redditch in the late 1990s, there was a place called the Fiero Factory. Yeah? Pretty sure I'm right in this. And they took Pontiac Fieros and they put a god-awful body kit on them and tried to turn them into either Testarossas or F40s. And because they were local, they tried to do something with us as the big local classic and sports car place. And I drove one of these things. God almighty. Now, I don't remember, I probably have, but I don't remember driving a Fiero in original form, but I certainly remember driving the left-hand drive bloody rebodied wannabe. Oh, God, they were awful. Oh, tell me I'm not imagining this. The Fiero Factory, somewhere in the environ of Reddit. And they churned out. I had one up at the showrooms. I actually had one for a while. Oh, God, it was awful. I mean, it was really awful. Really awful. I mean, it was almost as bad as a DeLorean. And that is, you know, I mean, when you're talking about bad cars, then everything has to be judged against a DeLorean. If you've ever driven one, you would know what I mean. Had two of them. God above. Awful, awful things. And oh God, yeah. It was a Testarossa. And they called it, it's all coming back to me now. It's all coming back to me now. They called it the Fiero. God almighty. And it was a rebodied Pontiac Fiero that was meant to be a left-hand drive Testarossa. And they were absolutely pig awful. The Fiero. Jesus. This is genuinely the first time that I've remembered this for many, many, many years. The Fiero. Oh, God. I'm looking forward to reading the comments about this. Does anybody else remember them? Have you ever encountered them? Were they as bad as I'm saying that they are? They were even worse than, on the subject of rebody things, they used to rebody Toyota MR2s. I think Mark IIs they would be. Not the original square one, the one that came after. And the import automatic, why they did it with automatics, I don't know. They used to rebody those as Ferrari 355s. Oh, and people would be so proud of them, like with the Fiero, and they would think they were worth a fortune. Now, I was always honest. So somebody would come to me, they would bring me this rebodied Toyota MR2, meant to be a 355 looky likey. And they would say, how would you value this? It's got this, it's got genuine Ferrari alloys, it's got a genuine Ferrari steering wheel, blah, 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 blah. And my answer was always the same. I said, I would value it at the value of an MR2 of this year in this condition, less whatever it costs to get all of that crap off it and put it back to normal. Do you know? One of the times in between my two stints at the showrooms, because there was a time when I left, and that was when I set up. Grand Central, the promotions company that went on to buy out and so on. But there was a short period of time when I first left because I spunked all of my money, spunked it all, living the life. And when I first left, bearing in mind that I lived above the showrooms, I don't think I've ever told you this before. So when I first left, I had no home. I was engaged to Sasha. We had no home. Because when I left the job, I left my home as well. And we moved in initially with Sasha's parents and then with my parents, only for a very short period of time, I hasten to add. And this is while I was setting up Grand Central, doing the next thing. I'd already been singing for a while. I'd become quite successful and well known. But rather than just being a singist, I wanted to set up the whole promotions company and so on. And Sash was doing that with me. And I left the job. I didn't mean to leave the job. I had a massive falling out with Richard that became a physical falling out. And I left just like that with absolutely sod all. So it was really weird. It was like suddenly being taken forward again and having to move in with your parents. A bit in for a dig. And to be honest, I was skint and we had to have some money coming in. So I went back to the job that I was doing when I was a student. And I went back to Mario's Pizza Casa in Studley and I delivered pizzas. Didn't do it for long. I think maybe a couple of months, something like that. Because it used to be really good money back in the day, and it was immediate money, and it was cash, and it was food. And I did that, and I delivered a pizza to a guy who tried to buy a 911 off me, and he and I'd refused to. No, I hadn't refused to take his part exchange, but I'd apparently insulted him with the value that I put on it, and apparently I'd been somewhat scathing about this car. I can't remember what it was, and he was really annoyed. And I delivered this pizza, and he ripped me to pieces over it. I remember you. No wonder you're delivering pizzas now, you rude bastard. Serves you right. Blah blah blah. And yeah, God, I'd forgotten about that. It didn't last long. It didn't last long because I launched Grand Central very quickly. Initially with Sasha and Rob, who passed away at the back end of last year, and then latterly with Mel when Mel came on board, but we'd already got quite big by that time. And it was literally only probably 2 months of being on my uppers. And then we moved into a place in Cook Hill. And then, once Grand Central really launched, then the money just rolled in. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then what happened then? Well, Grand Central was just flying. And then Richard moved to Spain, and they reached out and asked me to go back to the car place. And I said, no, don't need it. And they wanted me to go back. So I named a price, and they met it. And I went back. And that's when the really mad time started, when when I was working the most ridiculous hours. I was running the car place. I was doing shows at night. I was running a successful promotions company that we ended up. But anyway, oh God, let's catch up with some comments. Andrew, it would be a 1956 T-Bird 312 Auto in black. Boaty says, Barry Scratter, if you want to get into VW, I've got a Mark III Golf Estate. It's only $5,000. Yeah, like I've got $5,000. Cheeseburg says, I've imported two, both when Euro rates were good. Imported a new Celica in 2001 from Holland, and in 2002 it was a new 3 Series coupe from Germany. Saved a fortune, picked them up from the docks. Yeah, that used to be a thing, didn't it? And I remember that the UK dealers had to honour the warranty as well, even though you bought them overseas. One of the ferry companies did it, didn't they? I can't remember which one, but one of the ferry companies started selling cars, and they delivered them to the docks, and you picked them up from the docks. Herr Dumpy Dum says, Mr. Boaty is der falsche Taxifahrer. I could guess at that one. I would love a nice Ford Mustang V8. Lots of power, all the fun, says John Stoodley. If Boaty had a TX2, he could put a fake taxi sticker in the back window. I would love a TX2. The Fairway Taxi Nissan Diesel has the same Jatco Auto box as import Unos Roadster, bomb-proof. Oh, well, there you are. I had an imported Unos Roadster with that gearbox. Does he know what fake taxi is? No, I've got no idea what fake taxi is. No, not a clue. I've obviously missed a cultural reference there. I did like Jagged Little Pill, says Buddy Scrotter. I still have the CD somewhere in the archives. Brilliant album. I love it. I listen to it most nights. Stephen S. Paul says, I have a bunch of ex-New York and Philadelphia taxis back home. When I was 17 in 1981, I was buying old taxis and cars in general from my landlord, who is still alive at 83. I've got about 300 cars there. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. I want your life, Stephen S. Paul. I want to come and visit you. I want to come and visit you for a week and play with all of your toys. Andrew says, John, it depends on which model Mustang. 65 to 70 are the nice ones in my book. I would import, says Black Lines, another fourth generation Honda Prelude 2.2 VTEC SI BB4. I miss mine and I'd undersell this one. I like those. Mark says, Cheeseburger, I remember the Paseo. Not the most exciting looking coupe of its day, but handsome enough. I especially remember the metallic green one. Sorry. Bad Book says, Skick. Yes, Mustard is about a year older than Boaty. He's had an easier life than Boaty. He bloody has. He really has. John says, Andrew, it'd be the 5-litre engine for me. Lots of grunt with the V8. Oh, God, well, I mean, shoot me, but you don't get grunt with American V8. You can have a 7.3-litre thing. And the only American V8 I've ever driven that I would describe as having grunt would be the Dodge Viper. Otherwise, whatever American V8 you drove, you would wonder, how do they get such little power from such a big engine? The Viper was a handful, I'll give it that. 8 litres of stunning grunt. Oh, and the other thing that was a handful, GMC Cyclone, I think it was called, pickup truck. Oh, God, that thing was immense. Oh, video title, I forgot about those. Video title, NAF cars, would Alanis go down on you in it? I'll screenshot that. I don't think I'll get away with it. Oh, yes, video titles, please. We are coming towards, God, start saying your goodbyes. It's 4 minutes to saying goodbye and 18 current. Time has flown tonight, hasn't it? And we have to come up with a name for this. Apologies for the sound issues at the very beginning, and remind me to oh, my wine. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Look at that. It's fine. And remind me to turn the Wi-Fi back on my portable electric telephones so that all the content uploads overnight and I can put some videos out tomorrow. I say videos. There isn't really any content. I only got stuff for 2 videos today, to be honest. The daily diary is just going to be the journey there. And then there is the Must and the Boaty do lunch with video. I didn't get any other footage because all we did was sit in the car. It was too cold. It was just too cold. And then it's dark driving home, so I'm not going to do anything there. So, yeah, expect 2 videos. Oh, actually, there is a video going out in 2 minutes' time. There's one going out at midnight. I forgot about that one. And midnight counts as tomorrow, doesn't it? So 3 videos tomorrow. Plus there'll be Tuesday night live stream tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Be there. So 4 videos tomorrow. God. And I was accused of being a lazy YouTuber the other night by Dave Smith. I'm naming and shaming. Prior to 1985, says Stephen Espel, most US cities bought Chevy Impalas. From 86 onwards, fleet operators could order a Caprice through the COPO fleet program. GM finally decided to offer the Caprice to cab companies. I would love a Caprice. So when I get rich, can you help me out, Stephen Espel? Can you find me an ex-Chicago Caprice that I can import? Mark says, I like the X19 too, but admittedly the MR2 were everything the Pontiac and the Fiat were not. God, the X19. I forgot about the X19. I think I have to add that to the list of cars that I don't fit in, along with the very early Lotus Esprits and what's the other one? Oh, Spitfire, and possibly the MG Midget. Never been in an X19. Thought it was more of a rival to the TR7. I've had a few. Well, I've been in. The Fiero, says Mark, was a metal skeleton with plastic body panels, so it was easy to convert to horrid-looking Ferrari copies. Nowhere near as good a replica as the MR2. Yeah, the Fiero. YouTuber just got a kit car, supercar. Might be a Fiero, light blue, and it's a pile of junk, says Bad Books. The Fiero was a parts bin special, says Mark, with General Motors front drive subframes at the back end and the engine from a mail van. Bloody hell. The later V6 cars actually got decent suspension, though. The Fiero factory, says Cheeseburger. Never heard of it. Ah, yes, it was. But it was on Hewell Lane on the Tardeby junction of the Redditch Bromsgrove Highway. It was. I went there and I'd completely forgotten. I went there. I went to the Fiero factory. I remember now. And I've just remembered something else. Somebody was asking for cycling content. Well, here's some. Now, cycling clubs used to have, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have place-to-place records. And the place-to-place record used to be from the post office of one place to the post office of another place and back again. And I held quite a few of those. I used to do them for fun because they were, if you were a member of a cycling club, you got a club handbook every year. And the handbook listed all of the club records for various things. And I went through a phase where I just wanted to get as many of them as I could. And this is, and I should add, this is when I was racing first claim for, or maybe it was second claim, I can't remember. I was either racing first claim for the Redditch Island PCC and second claim for Solihull CC, or I was racing first claim for Solihull, second claim for Redditch. Or I might, or had I gone to Manchester Wheelers at that point? Honestly, can't remember. But I went through a phase of setting these records, well, beating the records, because some of the records had been on the books forever and ever and ever, and nobody had had a go at them. And just to piss people off, I used to do this. I was an absolute arsehole. I did a lot of the place-to-place records, and one of them was Redditch Bromsgrove, which was along that very highway. It's actually called, or it used to be called, the Bromsgrove Highway, even when you're coming from Bromsgrove to Redditch. And yeah, I remember setting that record, but I remember now that I did go to the Fiero factory, and that's where it was. And I used to go, oh God. Oh, I know why I used to come off at that junction a lot. One of our courses was, I think it was the K21. The K2110 used to start down the Tardeby Lane, and then you'd come onto the Bromsgrove Highway, down, and then the turn was the bottom island, which was always a nightmare, and then back up, back off, and the finish was very near the start. It was in the rules that the finish and the start had to be within a set distance, and I didn't like that course. I didn't like that course at all. It's one of those courses that nobody could ever beat me to the turn, because it was predominantly downhill, but they could certainly beat me on the way back. And the Bromsgrove Highway, when you're a big lump and when you're racing, it was appreciably uphill. And I remember the best ride I ever did on that. I was riding, oh God, I had an 11 through 16 block on and a 56 to single chainring. And I was on an ultra low profile with a Mavic Comet rear disc and a 12 spoke Raval front. Actually, I did a good ride on that day, so that's not a very good story. That was another club record. And it was on that ride that the best photo ever taken of me was. And I would genuinely I would swap all of my cars for one copy of that picture. We had a photographer in the club, and he was like a national photographer. He just happened to be local and a member of the club. And he took a photo of me during that ride. I didn't know he'd taken a photo. I didn't know anything about it until that year's trophy presentation when I won the BBAR, British Best All-Rounder. And it was one of the publicity shots at the trophy presentation. I'd never seen it before. And it's the best photo I've ever had taken on a bike. I don't have any photos on a bike because none of my family took photos. None of my friends took photos, but I was photographed many, 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 many times by proper photographers. And, you know, there was some telly stuff as well, but this was the best picture ever. I was incredibly aerodynamic. I know I'm an old fat lad now. I was incredibly aerodynamic. You've never seen a flatter back than mine. And there was just this picture. It was taken on the Bromsgrove Highway on the way back over the top of the hill. Now, in those days, we didn't have a computer per se. We used to have pipe lagging, and we would cut a bit of pipe lagging about that thick. We'd put it on the handlebars, and we would put a digital watch wrapped around the pipe lagging, do the strap up, you know, the plastic strap on a Casio watch. And we would have a stopwatch on there, so we knew what time we were doing. And we would, we'd set it to go when our minute man went off, because obviously we can't press the button as we're taking off. So we'd set it to go as the minute man went off. So you knew you just took a minute off the time and you could see what you were doing. And I knew that I was on a ridiculously good ride. And when you were racing and you knew that, then the adrenaline from knowing that you were on a flyer, as we used to call it, you were floating. The adrenaline just kicked in and you went even better. And I knew that I was flying it, and I knew I was going to do a ridiculous time. And I think his name was John McHugh. I could be wrong. I think it was John McHugh. Took this picture of me on this ultra low profile thing. And I was in full snarl. I was giving it everything. And this is in the days before the old triathlon handlebars. So you're just as low as you can try and get. So I'm down, down, down. I've got my head down. My mouth is open. There's a trail of snot coming out of my nose. And I'm pushing 56.11. I would have been doing about 36, 37 miles per hour. I had enormous legs back in those days. And the definition in my legs was, it was just an incredible picture. And I never got a copy of it. That trophy presentation, I was with a girl whose name I can't remember. And I should have been more involved with her than the photo, but I wasn't. I was having a laugh with my mates. And one of my not mates was trying to cop off with her, Kirsty. And she was from Hither Green Lane, somewhere near, Hither Green Lane in, I can't remember the area, posh part of Redditch, back end of the golf club or something, the other side of the Abbey Stadium, I think it was, and the crematorium, somewhere around the back then. It was a relatively new estate. And I never got a copy of the photo, never. And I would give anything for that photo now, or any of the others. I've got no photos. I've got no, because I never kept any. I don't know if my family did. I never had any originals. There were photos in magazines or whatnot, or like presentations and stuff like that. I would give anything for that particular picture. I can still remember looking at that and thinking, fucking hell. Ugh. Anyway, gone off the subject somewhere. Yeah, the Fiero factory. I've destroyed more Fieros than I can remember, says Steve Nispel. People just never took care of them. Besides that, they were, on the whole, shit. I thought they were. I've driven a TR7, says Mark. My dad owned one in period and said it was terrible, but I actually enjoyed it. TR7s, yeah. I've had two through my hands. One was the Tony Pond rally car, the actual car, OOM registration. And the other one was a Grinnell TR, well, it was a TR8 in theory. The Grinnell with the 4.6 V8 in it. God, that was a monster. My mate is a rover nut, says Cheeseburger. He had a TR7. He said it was like driving an Allegro. My phone battery is fading, so I shall say good night, says Mark on motoring. Good night to you, sir. Thank you for popping in. Just checked. Not a Fiero kit. DMS Bullet based on Capri. Looks like an Aston Martin V8, says Bad Books. YouTube channel Hudson Auto Films. Oh, there we are. Oh, it was, Mark. You're quite right. The Viper was a V10. My mistake. 8-litre V10, wasn't it? You're quite right. I hired a Charger in the USA in 2015, says Cheeseburger. Loads of noise from the V8, slow as whatever, and drank petrol. Video title, Boaty doesn't understand German. I'll take that. Has anyone ever owned a Jensen Interceptor, says Barry Scrotter? Yes, hello, me. And it was an Interceptor that was originally owned by Cliff Richard in Primrose Yellow. Thank you very much. We were talking about this the other night somewhere in a Facebook group or, oh no, it was on Messenger with the Unknown Banker. The Unknown Banker found an Interceptor that he wanted to buy. So we ended up chatting about them. And I was telling him that the early Interceptor is the car of choice, the 6.3. The later 7.2s were strangled by US emissions. And I also pointed out that the 6.3 and the 7.2 is a Chrysler lump, Chrysler V8, also used by Bristol. The difference being that Jensen just shoehorned the engine in, and that was that. And Bristol rebuilt it to their standards before they started using it in the 412 and the Beaufighter. And that's why Bristol's didn't break down, but Jensen's did. But yeah, I had Series 1 originally owned by Cliff Richard. John Moretti says the Dodge Liter was an 8-litre V10. Yeah, that was my mistake. German, it's all double Dutch to me. Bad is off. Ta-ta for now, you lovely peeps. There are a few cyclones and typhoons in work, says Stephen Espel. Most are intact, while the rest have been stripped bare. I've kept one for myself. Don't blame you. Cheeseburg says, Barry, the Interceptor was made in West Brom. It was. Bob Edmiston tried to rescue it, set up IM Motors, which imported Hyundai and then Subaru. I also had, I didn't own it, but I brokered an Interceptor Mark IV, and there were very few of those. I don't know exactly how many, but I had the first one off the production line. And I sold it to a sheikh in Saudi Arabia. And the Mark IV Interceptor had the best interior of any car that I've ever seen. Externally unchanged, except it didn't have the goldfish bowl rear window. Barry Scrotter, the Interceptor would be on my list. Andrew, I've spotted about it, says, well, everyone, this will be my last full live stream for a while. I'll start back at work tomorrow, so we'll only be able to pop in on my smoko. If I have a day off, I will be able to watch all the shenanigans. Oh, well, bad. Well, it's about time you got back to work. God almighty, we're almost in spring. How long has your holiday been? I've only had one day off. Smack out. The first Fieros had 153 CL Iron Duke engines. The later V6 cars had 60 degree 2.8. The 153 began life in 62 as the base engine in the then new Chevy IL-Nova, and they were used in Novas until 1970s. Oh, there we are. I once clocked over 45 miles downhill, says Mark, on a mountain bike with a compact 42-tooth chainring and 11-tooth sprocket. Couldn't keep up with the cranks. Yeah, God, 4211. Bloody hell. He starts banging on about cycling, and we go down to 26 viewers. Coincidence? Says Cheeseburger. Look, it's gone midnight. This is bonus footage. I'm supposed to have gone by now. Don't start on about push irons now, Boat. It's boring. Look, it's after midnight. This is my time when I get to talk about the crap that isn't necessarily interesting to anybody else. And if you were a cyclist, you'd be lapping this up. I'm a member of a Facebook group run by my very good friend, Darryl Webster, well-known professional cyclist, Olympian, incredibly talented guy, so funny. And I'm a member of an old has-beens group of old racing pros. They would have lapped that up. You lot don't know how lucky you are. We keep talking about, I should invite him for lunch or go to his for lunch. I have a standing invitation from Dad to go down to his place. He leads a remarkable life. At some point, he decided to drop out from the mainstream, and he lives off grid, as I believe they term it. And this is relevant because he is an MG Rover fan, and he has, I think he's got a 75 and a Tourer at the moment, or he did have. And in part of his off-grid thing, he installed a full garage with a hydraulic lift and everything, because he likes to do his own work on the cars. I've got a standing invitation to go and spend the night at Daz's place and get very drunk, and probably, well, he'd get stoned, and film talking about the old days. I've been nagging Daz for about 10 years to write a biography, or more specifically, to allow me to write a biography with him. And he won't do it. He won't do it. And believe me, he knows where all of the bodies are buried, if you like. So if you want to talk about drugs in cycling, certainly historically, he knows everything. And he's not shy about talking about it either, but he won't put it in print. He won't put it in print. That's going on the list for this year, night with Daz. I really need to go. I've annoyed all of you lot by talking about bicycles. Jimmy Quinn says, Boaty, it's very interesting you talking about bikes. Keep the stories coming. Professional Boaty, says Andrew. Give me the half-pissed retired reverend who bangs on about unts, lube, and almost dying of laughter. Interceptor owned by Cliff Richard. I bet you were the first to score in it. It's so funny. It's so funny how I owned Cliff's Jensen. That's quite clever, actually. That is quite clever. Oh, you've had 3 weeks holiday, Ivor, and 1 week was unpaid. Fair play. Oh, and Cheeseburger quite rightly says it won't be the same without you. It won't. I mean, Mr. Spotty Botty, Ivor, Andrew, I mean, he's shown himself to be up there in terms of shithousery, hasn't he? And he's invaluable in Untival. I think am I right in saying he's on the committee? I've got a bit of catching up to do on the WhatsApp thing. Oh, and yeah, there was, I've not read it properly, but there was some really moving stuff last night, and I need to talk about that. But that'll probably, well, it won't be tonight now. That'll be tomorrow night. We're 2 hours and 20 minutes in. Oh, that's interesting, Buddy Scratter. Saw the Mark IV Interceptor at a show last year. And as you say, no big back window. Yeah, I don't know how many they did. I certainly had the first off the production line. It was red. I can't remember the name of the red. And it had a black leather interior. The interior was superb. That was the thing that impressed me. And I can't remember who I brokered it for, but I do remember that I sold it to Saudi Arabia. I mean, I can't remember anything about the Mark IV. I presume that it was some kind of attempted resurrection of Jensen because it was, well after their demise. I know nothing about the history of Jensen, really. I know the cars. I know the FF was the first four-wheel drive Ferguson Formula. I've driven one. I'm very familiar with the cars. I owned a couple. I brokered literally, maybe not 100 of them, but probably close to. Because in my day, when I was dealing, they were an incredibly affordable classic. You could buy a decent Interceptor in my day for 5K. And it's a big lump of car for £5,000, isn't it? Can't read that one, Jimmy Quinn. Yeah, indeed. WhatsApp did appear to get quite deep. And I need to catch up with that because it looked as if there was some seriously worthwhile stuff. And they're the kind of thing that I need to talk about, the kind of important community stuff. But that is not for tonight, my lovelies. What is for tonight is me saying goodnight, letting you guys get on with your lives or sleeps, and getting my curry on. You see, I was professional tonight. I'm all organised in advance. Look, the curry out of the freezer, nicely defrosting in the pan. It's supper from the freezer tonight, darlings. It's a Monday. I've not been at work. No fresh food. I've got rice in the fridge. This was fresh on Sunday. I've got chicken that is from the freezer, but that should be defrosting now. Bit of fresh tomato, and the job is a good one. So I will eat that. I will finish off my wine and I will go to sleep. Oh, John, bless you. Talking about the WhatsApp conversation. Yes, Andrew, said John, very deep. I also suffer with depression, which I don't talk about much. If it wasn't for this community, I would have given up and not been here now. And professional, my ass, said Cheeseburger. I will share something. I just saw one comment in the WhatsApp thing, and I will talk about this tomorrow. And somebody said, I'm sure Boaty used to suffer with mental health. And I did, but the past tense is not applicable. It doesn't go away. And I have spoken about this before, and I'm perfectly willing to be open about it. It's an ongoing battle, not just for me, but for many, many, many people. And one of my friends, who has known me for, oh God, a long, long time, and certainly been there through some of the darker times, pointed out quite rightly that the restaurant and you guys the live streams, have saved me, because I've not come near to having an episode since those two things really kicked in. So I'm very grateful for that. And the daily battle to keep a balance. I've spoken about this loads of times: ego, id, superego, managing your depressive tendencies organically. I've not really had a struggle with that lately, and it's thanks to you lot, and thanks to the restaurant as well. And again, as I've spoken about before, the depression can be chronic or it can be reactive. And realistically, if I didn't have chronic depression, then reactive depression would be reasonable, because I'm living, I'm alone most of the time, not all of the time. There are occasionally tracksuit clad ladies from Liverpool whose tracksuit bottoms get removed. Or there's, well, I'm not going to mention the names, but I'm not always alone, but I live mostly alone. And financially, it's kind of a battle as well. Despite having too many cars sitting outside, I'm always battling the overdraft, and I'm always battling the gas meter. Even as we stand at the moment, my gas meter is my bank is overdrawn. I'm about £60 overdrawn. I've got a £100 overdraft limit, and I've got £10 emergency credit on that, and I'm £1.74 into it. So reactive depression, there's enough there that would trigger all of that. But as I say, I've been lucky. I've not really come close to having an episode, thanks to you guys, and thanks to, it's quite good that these things come at the end of a live stream, because most of you will have buggered off and nobody will watch this far again in the future. So it doesn't matter that I'm whittling on. But I was chatting with Mustard about this. Mustard and I, when we were sitting in the car today, trying to get warm after our lunch guest had gone, we ended up sitting in the car for about an hour and a half and having a really, really deep conversation. And I'm not going to go into what we talked about. It was quite private, personal. But it did involve YouTube and community and feelings and all of that sort of thing. And I suddenly remembered that it's not all that long. And this is, again, relevant to the WhatsApp thing. It's only about 4 or 5 years since I walked out one night at about this time. Where are we? midnight. About this time, maybe a little bit later. And I walked out from my cottage onto the main road there. And I just walked into the oncoming lane and just stood there waiting to be hit by a truck. Hopefully something big that would do the job. And, you know, that's not all that long ago, is it? So, yeah, that was quite sobering to remember that. That was the last episode of that nature. Please God, touch wood. So stuff like that is quite close to my heart. So I will catch up with the WhatsApp properly. Didn't have a chance last night, haven't had a chance today, obviously, and we will talk about it. But there we are. There we are. Yeah, that was a sobering night, that was. When Mustard and I were talking about it, he was talking about the parallel universe thing, the theory that, you know, because the universe is infinite, that at some point in somewhere else in a parallel universe, or whatever you want to call it, then I would have been hit. And I said, that means that somewhere else in another parallel universe, I'm still being podgered senseless by Chinese madam. And he said something about getting to the other side of the road. And of course, I never got to the other side of the road. I didn't try to. I just stood in the first lane, the oncoming lane, facing the traffic. And as it happens, nothing came. And after about, I don't know how long it was, you know, when you're in that sort of state, you're in no situation to judge. It felt like it was half an hour. It could have just been 10 seconds for all I know. And I suddenly thought, well, I'm cold and I'd really like a cigarette and I'd quite like a glass of wine. So I'll just nip back in. I'll have a glass of wine. I'll have a fag. I'll get a little bit warm and then I'll come outside and tuck myself. And of course, you know, the mood is broken, whatever. And that was it. And then presumably other things started happening. And again, touch wood, not been anywhere close to that yet. But oh, I'm getting some. We will talk about this. We will talk about this, darlings. Yeah, absolutely. We will speak about this. These kind of things are important. And just to finish off with, I will just say that I'm delighted that we've got a community here on the live streams where people feel able to talk about these things, me included. And it seems as if the WhatsApp is a welcome extension to that. So, and I think it's appropriate to say thank you to all of you for being there, because believe me, this is as important to me as it is to any single one of you. And if I've done anything for any of you, you've done a lot more for me. Trust me. So thank you for that. And also thank you to everybody who took the time and effort to wish me a happy birthday yesterday, or even today, or even the day before, depending on time differences. And there were so many text message, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, YouTube comments, Facebook comments, so many. And thank you. It meant the absolute world. And there we are. There we are. So that's it for tonight, darlings. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed tonight. 2.5 hours. Just flown by, hasn't it? I hope you've enjoyed this new professional community-led live stream. And I will be back tomorrow night, 11 o'clock. And we can do it all over again. In terms of videos, one went out at midnight. There will be a daily diary going out at some point tomorrow morning, depending on what time I manage to get out of bed. I don't rush on a Tuesday. I have to rush on a Monday. Tuesday is my lion day. So, oh, so sorry. But it will come out in due course. And all things being equal, there will be Mustard and Boaty do lunch with, for your delectation and delight, tomorrow night. And it's a bit of a long one. I don't know whether to leave it in one or try and chop it into two. I think it ended up being about 1.5 hours, despite the cold. I'll probably leave it all in one, because that just makes life easier. So there we are, darlings. Thank you so much. Hope you've had a decent Monday. I wish you all a safe and peaceful night. I hope you are warm and safe in this really rather cold spell. And have the best day that you can tomorrow. And above all, just, be kind to yourselves, take great care of yourselves, and be kind to those around you. And I hope that they're kind to you. And on that note, I will bid you all good night. And oh, just remember the thing I'm going to do. This is going to be my new thing. It's going to be my new ending. And it's a combination rip-off of proper boxing and Hubnut, but done in my own style. So here we go. Good night, darlings. Much love from me. See you tomorrow. Put you, bosh.